Hello, everyone. It's Stories at 10 miles per hour, the channel that tells stories, and they go at about 10 miles per hour. Right now, it's going about 0 miles per hour, but this one here looks kind of cool. I don't know if my old friend Debbie had anything to do with RVs all that much. Um, so yeah, but we got to have something to do. I'm waiting for my friend to show up. I'm trying to help him get his stuff to his place. It's so screwed up. I really don't know what the arrangement's going to be. So anyway, this is all about my old friend Davina Malone, and so her name. She went by Debbie, but her birth name, her official name was Davina because I think her father wanted the baby to be a boy and name him David, but since she came out as a girl, they named her Davina. So kind of a rare name. And Malone, that sounds Irish. Anyway, well, she was discovered by this guy that I spoke of in a long ago previous story about the leader of the caravan, and in Maine. So I think she was a Portland, Maine native, maybe. Um, and I met her in Wyoming when we were in the caravan, and it wasn't a caravan. What it was jet flights out of L.A. To Denver, and then we would get the rental cars. I might have mentioned the Cadillac that had 17 miles on it that was so new. And the girl that was driving it didn't even have a driver's license, and I didn't either. And my plan was to use a horse to get back and forth to work. That's an entirely different story. This is all about Debbie. So, like I say in the title, I will never forget you, Davina Malone. So she was a blonde and good looking, and that's where we met, Wyoming, when we were staying at the hotels, and we were in the crew, but not necessarily a caravan, but a jet van. So anyway, yeah, so we were friends, and I think the next time we hooked up was hard to say. Okay, so in 1997, we were together in that flood that I mentioned in the previous video, and 1998, the night of the flood, tragically on my birthday, Davina and I standing in 3 feet of water, drinking a glass of wine together. Yeah, well, I was just temporarily attracted to her, but I don't think she was ever attracted to me. So at some point, I think the next time Debbie and I hooked up would have been the Seattle adventure, and we were caravanning across the United States, all diagonally down the United States from Seattle to Florida. So that's about as diagonal as you're going to get. and so she was caravanning, and I asked her to come sleep in the back of the van with me, and she didn't want to. And I think she was older than me. She's getting up in years, in her 50s. And I remember uh, that we switched crews because she probably felt uncomfortable about just subtle advances. And I had to go it alone. And she rode with somebody else. And then when we got to our destination, I got there way late, Florida, and that's all covered in the caravan stories. Um, and then this weird guy, he showed up. He's a trust baby, rich boy. He was a little older than me, so he's more her age. So they wound up hooking up. So yeah, it's just a shame that part he was just very evil, and but she needed the money. She needed the security of a rich man, so she would stay with him. And I don't know if they she might have regretfully did something, you know, with that guy. They went together for a while, um, and she had showed up in a dream in those types of dreams that are reoccurrent, where they don't make a whole lot of practical sense, but they make some kind of spiritual sense, and it's not that great of a thing. It's if see, this is a great way to explain let's say back in the days of disco, you're at a discotheque, or they still do something similar today. They have those clubs, and everybody is just kind of dancing to the music, and we've all left the this life, and we're in the afterlife, and um, so Debbie is dancing along with everybody else. So am I, and so is everybody else, and that she's just saying, oh yeah, well, it's same old routine, this is what we do, it's all okay, go along with the crowd. But it's satanical. So yeah, that those dreams could be brought on by consuming meat before you go to sleep, and especially with the combination of alcohol, and it would explain childhood dreams. Uh, the children have nightmares because they could be consuming some kind of meat, red meat being the worst, in my opinion. Pork maybe second, and then anything. Fish not so bad, but I recommend that you don't eat any kind of meat whatsoever at night. Only eat the vegetarian food. Only the vegetables, grains, so anyway, so that covers that aspect of it, and then later on, we worked on other crews. We were in other crews together. Most notably, we hooked up again about around 1996, I think it was. Well, shoot, it's so confusing. I wish I could have put it more in chronological order, but yeah, I'd already known Debbie, and her friend Kim and I, we did some work delivering phone books together, but that we hardly made any money, uh, the three of us, and I would go stay with them in Ventura. But yeah, that's not that wasn't and another campaign we worked on with on the crew. Shoot. Uh, It's just was slim pickings, 1996, 97. That's just so we just kept hooking up. In the Halloween 1997, I got in contact with Debbie and her business partner, um, Bob. He used to pronounce his name Bob, which would make people laugh. He was really old. He's in his 70s, and we moved into a house, and they had started a business and worked for them, and we all got along. That was the house that flooded, and then okay, fast forward to later on in the 2000s. Um, she was still what you call a coordinator, running crews. Just would stay in hotels in Orange County, California, and she was, making ends meet. And I would come. I wasn't on that crew, but I would, if it was profitable, would you say? Barely. I would do some business with them and come hang out and have a drink. Then, of course, not enough to get a DUI. Just barely DUI level, and they really smashed. They started buckling down on the DUIs. But yeah, I would go have a drink with them in the hotel and talk about what we all did, and politics. It had to do with political campaigns, and so yeah. Okay, so they're into the 2000s, and then she became more and more ill. She smoked, but she wouldn't inhale, and they always had to be these Capri brand cigarettes. And that's just very strange how she contracted the disease known as COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, and just became so ill that at one point she was admitted to a state hospital, and that down there in Orange County, California. My little brother, and I went to visit her one day, and she was in bad shape, but she got out. She was tough as nails, and lived in a house with some people who were still trying to work on political campaigns. And then years went by, and my brother came to visit me when I was living in San Diego, and he said, hey, you remember Debbie? Let's call her up. I said, yeah, I think I got her number. I got my own phone book and a notebook, and I put yellow magic marker on it, so it's kind of cool. And I got a bunch of names. And somebody answered the phone, and I remember that dude. This could have been the last time we seen Debbie. She living in an RV in a parking lot, some kind of a shopping center, kind of a deal with two other people. And the guy that answered the phone, I remembered him. He had inherited the RV, and it was a piece of junk. It was a Tioga, though. Tiogas are okay, but they're, it was just a junker. And he said, well, I'm out here in the Mojave Desert, and Debbie died. And so that's when we heard the sad news. But yeah, sorry, this was a little bit convoluted chronologically, but yes, I would like to say that I will never forget you, Davina Malone.